Okay, now for some quick PowerPoints on the Bermuda Triangle Devil Seas anomaly in the current discovery of a new similar event parallel to the, let's call it the Devil's Bermuda just to save time. This new anomaly I shall call the Northern Exposure based on the fact that it is beneath the shield's polarized flow wave magnetic shield around us plumes upward from the north and draws inward from the south. One thing I wanted to make note of here is that of some new geological perspectives that haven't been verified, but we must assume the validity of these factors in order to reach the conclusion of this information's purpose and design. First off is the finite curve of geometric precision. If you'll notice, the Bermuda Triangle and the Devil's Seas in China are not exactly a line in a straight line between each other, that one is slightly to the side of the other. The Alaskan Triangle is also slightly off-center from the string of disappearances occurring around South America where airlines have gone missing, and I even heard a story about how a commercial jet that was missing for 50 years landed one day with a plane full of skeletons that was once the passengers of that airline. Similar occurrences to the Bermuda Triangle and Devil's Seas incidents. So the point I am finding here is that the junction between these two anomalies is curved in conjunction with the curvature of the Earth's surface. This is what I call the finite geometrical curve, and this curve is caused by the solid mass of the Earth's surface. So when geometrically aligning an object, say the Pyramid of Egypt, that is said to be geometrically aligned, then the point A to point B ratio will have a curve to its path in symmetry with the curve of the Earth. This same effect can be observed in deep space through the curvature of the universe itself. One may think that this is an obvious issue and is caused by the gravitational effects of the Earth and the center of momentum of our planet's rotation that is the cause behind this anomaly, and they would almost be right, it would seem, except for the fact that these types of occurrences are not common in any observed event. If this were the case, then every world would have a Bermuda Triangle and a Devil's Seas anomaly on them. What I'm saying is that the events surrounding this geological pattern does not fit or cause these kinds of anomalies, nor has any geological survey, both on Earth and in space, produced similar occurrences to be found in their geological cycles. If they did, then we would have ample data to work with when it comes to wormholes, and the Bermuda Triangle wouldn't be a mystery but instead a warning that is listed when booking any vacations to that area, saying, please leave all electromagnetic powered watches and cellular devices at your hotel rooms and do not carry them on board the tourist vehicles, as you may trigger a portal into a wormhole to appear and become lost for all time. Thank you for choosing blah 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 tourist transportation and sightseeing tour lines. So let's lay out the possible causes to this. Unlike most scientific minds that try to share their ideas with the public at large, I shall go against the status quo and start at the top with the most plausible cause and work my way down. My number one guess from observation and taking into account what information I have, I would assume that this event of disappearances and similar carvings, cave murals, Egyptian hieroglyphic art and statues, along with ancient cities and villages that possess technology beyond their era, or archaeological discoveries that occasionally find displaced objects thousands of years before they were supposed to exist, that sometimes eerily resemble an object that may have been lost within these regions, is due to a wormhole that is traversable through the magnetic instruments and radio wave transmitters that were on board the ships, and the reason they went haywire. However, if this is true, let us run down the effects that would need to occur both before and after these instruments became the key to parting the fabrics of time and space so that an object or vessel could pass through and into the wormhole's vortex. To touch on this subject, I must first go into some classified research and projects not known to the public, but to say something like an angel or demon who have the ability to project the accumulated image within their mind and send it to the holy and unholy powers who they work for, as well as receive such images to get instructions on what they are to do. We can reappropriate this skill to function on a synaptic frequency, can access the fiber optic wireless signal used in mankind's communication networks, and simply access the information we are searching for, crack open any password protected files and extract the information needed, such as GPS, media, satellite control override codes to mask the approach of incoming commercial jets, refuse to turn off the cellular signal's connection even after they hang up, allowing the trace of certain individuals making terrorist bomb threats from a coven hideout within the Pakistani mountains, detect communications between armed forces, revealing falsified planted evidence that justifies occupation of a foreign country while tanks are circling someone's bomb shelter, Access NOAA satellite signal feed to detect multiple bands of satellite imagery to locate naval vessels moving across seas cloaked from radar by detecting the wake of a passing object through the water that leaves displaced water trails behind it. And even detect sonic radar weaponry being used by the disturbance in the radio wave background that surround them. Using this method one can easily access almost any amount of information, but the downside is that you cannot send out any sort of command prompts as it requires a much too difficult to compiled amount of imagery to successfully enter a command prompt. Yes, this skill has been locked away in the vaults of heaven's forbidden knowledge and divine secrets under the seventh seal marked with the title Grace written above it and explicit instructions to give to Lucifer in this fashion at this specific moment, and it was sealed with the presence of the Holy of Holies and the strength of God's seal of authority, himself, whose curse over it has driven men mad who have thought themselves worthy until this day. With this I can access any information the satellite network may receive, no matter how classified they try to make it to hide from the public's knowledge. Thank you, Messenger. Just in the nick of time and conveniently necessary for the times we now face. So first let us examine the origin of a wormhole itself and how we theorize they form.
Scientists haven't discovered this yet because they don't have the equipment to detect it, but the center of our galaxy is not just a black hole. Black holes dig a vortex well of gravity into the fabrics of space and time, or in Einstein's conjunction of the two words in his thesis of general relativity, what he calls the fabrics of reality. They are not mathematically capable to be mobile or in motion because of this. But our galaxy is constantly in motion along with everything within them. How is this so? Because the black hole in our core is surrounded by a type of star whose composition is not yet detectable by our senses. If they were, they would have known of this before the Voyager probes left our solar system, where they encountered a wall of fire and intense heat like that of a star when they expected to instead be confronted by the cold freezing temperatures of deep space. They experienced this because we exist within a quasar star whose center of immense mass is balanced by a black hole within its central region. The central black hole is actually held in a balanced equilibrium within the core of the star that radiates on a spectrum beyond our senses' ability to register. The relativistic jets plume out and curve along the edge of the quasar's surface, and the energy emitted by the star creates a harmonic resonance with the black hole within its core, therefore causing the black hole to negate its gravitational well from digging into the fabrics of space, and it becomes a mobile black hole that travels in synchronicity with the star and the galaxies within it. Also, the black hole's presence allows the density of the star to remain minimal enough due to the presence of the ion cloud bands that constantly break down solid particle formation, allowing the quasar's particles to remain as scattered and as spread out as possible except for random void-like areas. These areas, like ours, are where planetary formations and solar systems are able to maintain solid mass within the boundaries of these voids. Think of our solar system to be like a sunspot within the star. Each solar system, like our solar system as well as all systems within the thousands of systems we've found, are like sunspots. Regions of neutral temperate conditions created by the system's central star, which is in turn made from the particles of the quasar's particle material itself, only more dense than the quasar itself. These dense identical particles create a repelling effect within the quasar, creating a barrier against stellar particles that allows solid matter to form, cold regions to exist, and even life to forms like that of our planets to evolve. Evidence of this can be found in the Voyager probe's experience of a wall of fire they hit once they left the solar system and entered deep space. As long as that equilibrium is maintained, then the black hole remains dormant and kept that way by the quasar star around it. Once an object travels near enough to the dormant black hole, that balance is disrupted and the black hole flares out a violent flash of its relativistic jets and thus awakens the black hole until the quasar star's mass decreases to the proportionate equilibrium with the black hole, in which it will again enter a phase of being dormant once again. This process, if true, them would have a direct effect over the speed in which a galaxy travels and what direction it travels in, as well as the possible sudden change in both momentum and direction depending on the disturbance within its core based on the mass of whatever object was to be devoured by the black hole, which would dictate the degree of imbalance respectively to the amount of alteration of the galaxy's speed and course of direction. The gravitational pull of a black hole is dependent upon the object's total stellar mass when it collapses into the singularity while traveling at speed in excess of 2.7 times the speed of light, squared by the root of the object's particle speed divided by its respective kinetic force generated by the object's motion and multiplied by the density of the particle field at the point of impact, which is measured by the slip particle wavelength string theory, which will give us the total collision forces square root, which is the gravitational force of each black hole strength. The condensed core is the bulb of the Milky Way and is, in principle, the effect of what occurs when there is no vortex gravity well of a black hole for matter to be directed into. It instead is plumed outward into a thin inner core layer of a galactic center. But the particles quasars consist of do not condense into solid particles very thickly because of the lack of the gravity well and is spread out in a thin layer-like pattern. The ever-increasing mass of a quasar star is balanced and made possible by the black hole that is kept full from the star's energy, keeping the vortex of the black hole full and unable to dig deeply into the fabrics of reality, thus allowing consistent motion of the galaxy. When the mass of the quasar reaches its limits due to material available, then the quasar stops increasing its mass, which causes the black hole in the center, which is dormant, to then go active and consume itself until the quasar encounters material that it can begin transitioning to fuel and increase its mass again. Then the black hole in the center will go dormant once again once the equilibrium has been rebalanced. The material that makes up the quasar is photon energy derived from the Higgs boson field of the cosmic microwave background, which were the first energies that came into fusion during the expansion era of the dawn of existence. This could also be the reason for the miscalculation in the Higgs boson field ratio that leads many scientists to theorize there is an imbalance in the boson field, when in fact this imbalance is caused by the fact that our view comes from within an object that draws its energy from its source and is the cause of that distortion within the field. The black hole also allows the quasar's immense mass to exceed the limitation of mass allowed in an object before it collapses into a black hole. Here is a clue I discovered as a possible lead to the upcoming event and an answer to the if all else fails question. If you look at my videos with a sharp eye, you can see that many of them were influenced with visions of what soon came to pass. Know that the ending of the last video is another such. The paradox videos I did, it seems, were some of them. Astrologically, it seems the impact of that size and speed may bring about the initial moment of the paradox, as the gravitational waves cause not a ripple just to our vicinity but causes the entire cosmic web that runs through us to shudder from the effect, warping time and space on a supercluster level before collapsing the entire supercluster into it.
The Hog says there is a place of refuge for those in spirit that have passed. The labyrinth is in the same place where New Zealand is, but in the spiritual realm and below its surface. A place made from magic far older than Stonehenge, a place large enough to fit the world's current population 100-fold. The abyssal 700-level labyrinth of Pandora. The prison that held the fallen one, that is, incidentally shaped in an upside-down cone and lays over the chasm of oblivion, which is in principle, a black hole that is at the bottom of the underworld, as described as the 9 hells in both the Islamic legends and literature of Dante's Inferno of the Divine Comedy. Greek lore, it is Pandora's labyrinth. In Hebrew lore, it is the bottomless pit. In Jewish lore, it is the realm beyond the Jinn, beyond the Black Gate, across the shores in the land of Sheol. In modern translated cinema, it is the actual game of death portrayed in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Only in this labyrinth there are not 9 realms of Asgard like in Norse legend, but 700 realms, each their own universe with altered states or reality, and for those who complete all 700 realms and the puzzles within each one, lies the grand prize. Pandora's box, the flame of Olympus, the divine spark, anything one's heart might desire without any strings attached, no gimmick, it happens right there on the spot. You wish to become a god, then it is so. You wish to return to the living, then it is so. But looking at this from a perspective outside of the status quo, despite their hold on, gotta heal. Okay, beyond the foreboding legends, and it is large enough to fit the entire universe's sentient life, from beginning to end, placed like a lint trap over the vortex from which there is no return, or over the gravity well of the temporal accretion disk. My hands are cold, and slightly numb. This edifice may be used to transfer an entire universe of life into another by slipping through the wormhole, resist the last moments of existence's collapse, and about 30,000 years or so after the next Big Bang. This place they speak of, I have been to occasionally as a kid. I sometimes slipped into it and still do sometimes when I dream. I think I am pulled there because it was my prison in the past. So when my spirit travels out of body, I am pulled towards there. The entrance, it seems though, begins beneath the Sphinx in the spiritual realm. Everything has its purpose. When God makes something with a purpose, it always seems to be the solution to many problems from many angles, I've noticed. There must be a way to appropriate this upside-down pyramid-like device to fit this need. Now I tried to remain a bit more subtle in my works and not flare out, but Mr. Mater, you may want to view this as the demon behind your works revealing himself here. As the serpent who was within the garden, so to speak, I am appalled at this total lack of recognition to what became a part of my burden to bear. You see, the subject of Adam and Eve learning how to procreate is what led me to being changed into the serpent in the first place, as I was tasked with teaching them the birds and the bees of sex. He changed me into the serpent so that I would not have any issues with fornicating with Eve while in the process. I didn't understand why he would worry about such things at the time, as I was an angel and had no desire for such earthly pleasures. Only later did I learn of the misconceptions about Lilith. Did it seem to make sense, which was a deception of Satan's, which I shall explain. God had tasked me to explain the process of sex to Adam and Eve, turned me into the serpent and placed me within the tree and told me not to allow them to eat from the fruit, for if they did it would kill them. Now might I make note that there was what he said, and then there is our understanding to his reasons behind what happened. I am trying to adhere to what was said and resort only to the derived reasons if I must. So from that point he placed me in the tree to be seen as a hazard by them and warned Adam to be cautious of the serpent. He gave me the gift of speech so that I could perform my task, and then left the garden. Now something many may not know is that when possessed there are moments when the one being possessed will have glimpses of the plans and intentions of the possessing spirit, as I was given glimpses of Satan's plans in his tempting of Eve to eat of the fruit. It had to do with his reasons in acquiring mankind's soul in his war against God. He had planned on using the souls of Adam and Eve as well as many others and use them as a filter to steal the knowledge of God's essence and power from the tree of life. letting their physical form take the repercussions for eating the fruit and extracting the knowledge of God and his power from them risk-free to himself. However, he did not realize that eating the fruit was a part of his plan in the first place and was not Adam and Eve's original sin, it was Satan's. The first sin mankind committed was hiding in shame, and lying taught him about it when he asked them why they hid. His main factor in his rise against God was nothing special, for all were meant to receive the gift of free will, even himself. Which is why his plan failed and he became supplanted by the roots of the tree of good and evil as the principality of evil. But I am neither a fool or am I swayed by such deception, truth enveloping a deceitful lie. Once again one stands to try and take my place through logical manipulations of my words. I see you trying to hide behind other cultural images, trying to sneak into my position. That's all I have energy for, cause my fever is back. Ciao Bella.
Step closer. Allow me to show you the path of your destiny. Your future is in the cards. The hand of fate has cast a shadow over your life. Your horizons are bleak, and darkness fills the path before you. A storm is coming.